organizations, but I think government needs to come up with something, to encourage young people to go into business, provide them with incentives, be there, provide guidance as well, support them through it. I mean, so that we don't have to continue. I think it's like I said, we need to have this national reflection. We need to have this difficult conversation. It's one thing to come with all this, beautifully written policies, but we want to see action. And until that is done, like I said, we will continue to have this conversation year in, year out.
Because if you look at the informal sector in this country, at least 60% of our businesses are informal. What is the Ministry of Trade doing to organize those, to make them formal? To give them capacity, to give them support. You can see a carpentry workshop, for example, that is doing very well, very talented young Gambians. But again, we'll go and buy our furniture from Turkey to fill in our offices. You take an example of Rwanda, they don't buy any furniture outside.
Perfect.
Those furnitures that they put in their offices are all been produced in their country. We can do the same thing here. The informal sector can be organized to be a leading growth as far as economic growth is concerned. So it's very important. And then quickly, when you talk about youths, young people, let me say, on Monday...
This is about this point you're making of Rwanda. Yeah. What if one puts in this argument that, okay, what if what I'm getting from Turkey is cheaper
than what is...
No, but that's when the government comes in. Yeah. That's when the government come in and make things easier. You just don't allow Ansumana to get all his money and to produce this material, because whatever he puts there is going to be heavy. But government comes in and makes sure and mitigate, in terms of what you put out there. It could be, like you talk about public-private partnership, to help these young businesses to grow. When you talk about youth, on Monday there was this industrial action by the drivers. I had 100% of my manpower have reported to work. People have walked from Brikama, Jalamba, Brufut, Madiana on foot to go to work. And they are young men and women of this country. So people in this country, young men and women, definitely want to do something, but they must see something out of it. You cannot exploit people.
Thank you very much. Something in return. Thank you very much, Sirisi and Sumana. Viewers, you reminded you're still watching State of QTV, I'm saying State of Affairs actually. You're still watching QTV. We bring you a live broadcast of the State of the Nation address by the President, which will take place any moment from now. Let's now move to education. Ministry of course, we talk about the basic and secondary education. I mean, let's take a listen as to what the President had to say last year regarding this sector.
The country continues to make impressive gains on enrollment at all levels of the education sector. Gross enrollment rates have improved by 5.2 percentage points at the lower basic level, 2.4% at the upper basic level, and 1.6% at the senior secondary level. Enrollment for early childhood development is above the National Development Plan NDP target of 50.2% and 52.9% by 4% for male and female enrollment, respectively. Through the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, my government is partnering positively with the World Bank, MRC Holland, and other philanthropists to improve access to quality education. Through such partnerships, 2,173 new classrooms have been completed within these 4 years, and the plan is to complete 134 more by end December 2021. From 2017 to date, the sector innovated 1,389 additional classrooms and built 2,505 toilets across the country. 100 more toilets will be completed by December 2021. Since teacher motivation and welfare contribute to better performance, 836 rooms for teacher accommodation have been built countrywide. Hopefully, the number will increase to 1,000, noting that 200 are due for completion by end December 2021.
Well, that's the President Bear in his last year's State of Nation address. I mean, they are talking about what his government was able to achieve as far as the education sector, of course. But as you are seeing, those are live images now. The President has now arrived at the National Assembly, and I mean, also the Vice President is seated, and other cabinet ministers, including the National Assembly members, they are all seated. I mean, just awaiting the President to enter the chamber now. I mean, he will be received by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Fabakary Tombong Jatta, and those are our fine men and women in uniform. They are receiving the President at the National Assembly. Sidi Ansumana, you have heard from the President. He talked about, of course, this was last year, about enrollment, teacher motivation, and all those things. But going by the recent WAS result that we saw, quality seems to be a concern.
Yeah, we had that debate here. I think EXO has gone near bringing different stakeholders.
Sidi, let's go to the Parliament now for national anthem. live images on the arrival of the president at the National Assembly. As you have seen, after arriving at the parliament, he inspected a guard of honor mounted by fine men and women in uniform before being received by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Fabakary Tombong Jatta, and of course the clerk of the parliament, Mo Isise. And of course, National Assembly members were also at hand to greet the president. We have seen chiefs from across the country, and of course, staff of the National Assembly were also at hand to receive the president. And he has now entered the parliament, and any moment from now, he will be seated to deliver his 2022 State of the Nation address. Once again, you reminded you're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we're broadcasting live. I mean, we're also broadcasting on Q Radio on 103.3, and of course, streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at QTV Gambia. And here in the studio, I have Mr. Sidi Sise and Sumana Esonyasi. Just before we went with the arrival of the president, we were discussing about the education sector, basic and secondary education. I mean, you've heard from the president in his last year's address. He talked about what his government has done in terms of teacher motivation. I mean, a lot of things that he said has been done. I mean, constructing a good number of classrooms across the country, but quality and small. Still,
not the quality, and as much as we would commend them for some of the actions they've taken to improve teacher welfare. You mentioned salary increments. We've also seen teachers wanting or calling for strikes a couple of times. To this day, teachers are still complaining. I mean, a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I think we had the permanent secretary at MOPSI and the former PS as well, who's also very much passionate about education, Dr. Barrow. I mean, on one of our platforms here on QTV, and they highlighted some of the challenges they're still facing, the lack of teaching materials. I mean, the education sector being, they feel it's not given that much attention it deserves. The resources aren't there. I mean, they've given us that picture, actually, of what's really happening. Now, we will commend government for some of the actions, but I want to believe, that in light of the results we've had, especially within our junior secondary school category in the past couple of years, it shows that we're dropping in quality, and you highlighted it as well. I think this is one area we need to look at. Education, for me, is the backbone of any country. Even the economy we're talking about, you need people with experience, people who are well educated to be able to, have a very functional economy, and it applies to all other sectors. It feeds every other sector, basically. So we need to really look at our education sector, strengthen it, give it all the support it needs. It's not, it shouldn't just be mere lip service, reform this, reform that. No, it goes beyond just building the infrastructure. It's important. We can build all these schools. We've seen, the proliferation of, schools during Jammeh's time. But then you compare the quality, back in the days and now.
When you had few schools.
There's a stark contrast. And I think it's important, really, that those who are in charge, the technicians there, and anyone who is within that sector, government, I think, should take the lead to ensure that we review our entire education sector, see where we are not doing well, and try to improve, especially on quality.
And Sidi, what are you expecting from the president as far as this sector is concerned?
Thank you very much. As I've said it, and I cannot say more than he have said, but just to buttress on what he said, like you've highlighted, quality is very important. And I think that is one thing the government needs to look at. And you cannot have quality without not making investment. And two, also, the curriculum is also important.
Yes, I was coming to ask about
the curriculum is very important. When you looked at our materials that are in schools, they really need to be looked at. Yeah. They are aging. Yeah. And if you looked at what also our homes bring to the school is also important. There's a quite number of kids who are drop out from school and virtually doing nothing. If you go around, the streets, you'll see people who should be, kids that should be going to school actually are in the streets, either selling or doing all sorts of things, and it's actually really affecting our society. So there needs to be more collaboration between various institutions, especially the Ministry of Social Welfare. It should actually come on board and see what actually happened as far as our homes are concerned. And again, when you talk about curriculum, we need to look at technical. I know GTI of late has been doing a lot, and they're building certain centers in Kanela, in Masakonko, and all this. But we need to make sure the materials are there. Just not building a technical school, and you don't have the materials there, you don't have the teachers there, that actually will not do anything for us. So the curriculum needs to be looked at. The disciplinary measures has also been in place as far as, making sure quality is brought back to school. That is very important. And teachers' motivation as well is very important. Like as we have said, even until now, teachers are complaining. I mean, of course, you cannot stop anybody complaining, but make sure, you look after them. You give them, what is needed. And that's very important. So in a nutshell, I think we need to look at the curriculum. We need to, try and do more investment, and we need to also look in our homes, because I thought you're talking about second chances. You can call that apprenticeship. Yeah. All these are things that needs to be, pushed. We need to do everything possible we can to make sure that our young generation, actually have something fulfilled, something meaningful that they can put their hands in. Or else we're going to have a broken society, and a broken society will lead to a broken country. And I don't think we want to have that. It is important we look at that.
And Sumani, you've heard from City talk about its curriculum. I mean, the other day I was, somebody was telling me, I think it's high time we start changing our curriculum. All this amoeba, this mixed farming, mixed cropping. we will focus on something that really affects us.
I think there's a problem. If you look at the way we are taught in school here, I don't know if it's the same, in other places, but you're literally taught to cram things and then go to exams, remember these things on paper.
Yeah.
That's literally how our education system works here.
They don't really understand.
Yes.
They only read to pass exams.
I love the idea of TVET. I so appreciate it. And I wish we would strengthen that area. That for me is the future.
And that's something that's the current Minister of Higher Education
teaching people things to cram and then remember on paper, by way of exam. Give them skills. Yeah. It has to go with something. You look at our university, I think this should all be research centers. Yeah. We don't have that. This is why it's difficult to manufacture anything in Gambia. It's really sad. And for me, to be honest, I have so much faith in the current Minister of Higher Education. And I think he's doing quite well.
Yeah,
I hope he's supported with the ministry and given, all that they need so we can transform our education. It has to start from there. Yeah. Once we get it right, the thing with the grassroots, I think we need to have a serious, difficult conversation.
Quickly, I stopped by, usually I randomly stop. I stopped by distribution station. I found 6 or 7 activity in the station. Yeah. And the oldest is a grade 5 student who went to break in a hotel, the 5-star Sheraton Hotel. They broke in there.
But young?
Yes.
Wow.
Bruce to be police station. The matter is still there. I first spoke to the child welfare officer and some of them officers there, and these kids are there.
It's also something is fundamentally wrong.
It's fundamentally wrong. And to my disappointment, their parents were there getting them bread for breakfast. So it's like nothing happened, and they drag in the guy who was buying the second-hand stuff because they were cutting some stuff from the hotel. Because the hotel, I understand, is in the market, the Sheraton Hotel. The AC cables and stuff like that, this copper, they were actually, vandalized. I would call it vandalizing those materials, cutting them up and go and sell. And you see, this guy who was selling the scrap materials, these are kids. They bring in this stuff for you. You shouldn't even buy it in the first place. Yeah. But he too was dragged in the police station. So fundamentally, there is a problem. We can blame the school system. We can say a lot about the education, but our
parents.
homes as well.
Parents.
Yeah,
Parents as well has a responsibility.
true.
If a child at grade 4, grade 5 can go in and break in to steal, something is fundamentally wrong. And you have those kids at the police station, put somewhere where you have notorious criminals there.
Just like I was saying, I mean, in the past, you look at our education sector. Mr. Mboj would always tell me, if you were, let's say, in grade 5 or 6, I know it used to be forms back then, you were able to write a letter. Now you have
3.
Yes. Now you have people
Exactly.
who go all the way to junior
university.
school, senior school, and they'll struggle to even express themselves.
Yeah.
It shows something is fundamentally wrong with us.
And not only those kids went to break in, but each of those kids have started smoking cannabis.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm saying this on record, and anybody can go to Bruceby police station and you'll find their files there. I'm sure at this time they may even come there to report because they have been bailed to be coming to report. These are kids.
So it's about attitude as well, and also taking responsibility
Yes.
at the level of our home.
A child at primary 4, primary 5, taking drugs.
And they should be in school studying.
Yes, I just want to know here. I mean, you're trying to make comparison as to what used to obtain back then and now, when we used to have just fewer schools back then, but the quality back then and now when we have so many schools, totally differs. What must have changed, Sidi? What must have changed?
What have changed, I think, is the pride.
What must have changed?
When I was growing up in our village in Bruford, my dad, will take me on a walk. And say, for example, Alu went to high school and is going to Forobe College, or is opportune to, go to, sixth form or something. Yeah. My dad will point, you see him, he has, good results. He has scholarship from government. He's in Forobe College, or he's in this house, or, he's doing this. But those role models are missing. Our society do not believe that you need to work hard and make ends meet.
True.
You can walk in the street and someone can give you a packet of $10,000 just like that. Or you can do something, that means not virtually nothing, and you make, huge money. So that the pride is not there. And people actually don't believe in themselves anymore. If I say not everybody, a large amount of people, large amount of our parents, actually do not care. If Esonyasi comes home today, we know he works at QTV, but he come with a Range Rover and just drove in. No, even just, when some parents will not ask you, so how do you get
nobody will question how
nobody
you
will
get it.
question that. But all they see is the fantasy and the beautification, and that's not real. So this is our problem. Our culture, we've deviated from it. We are sort of like caught in between. We don't actually know where we are as a society. And if we don't actually work hard, in trying to make our families stable, we are going to find ourselves in a very devastating place. I'll give you an example. Back when I was in the UK, in Hackney, we have these immigrants from the Caribbeans. You may all heard about those times when there's so many crimes in Hackney, in Birmingham, and all this, because most of these Caribbeans who came eventually get confused down the road, and that lead to broken society, and those broken society produce those kids who some of them are, most of them are killed now because of gun crime, knife crime, been sent in prison for many, many years. That's because stable family produce a stable society.
That's true.
When we have unstable families, unstable homes, we'll have unstable society. And that comes from where? We must invest in our families.
Also,
families must be invested. That's the government must do that.
Yeah.
We have a particular ministry responsible. I mean, here you go to a school, a teacher will tell you, I've not seen, Moduba or Modu Sise for a week or more, and nothing happens. In our days, when I was a teacher, I know all my kids in my class, I know their parents, I know their homes.
Yeah.
Today, the teachers don't know their homes. I'm sure even days Alo is in school, your teacher knows your parents, knows your home.
That's true. I remember my principal always go to my house.
Absolutely. Our teachers used to come to my house. I can still remember one of my best teachers, Esa Boja in Jambanjeli. He comes to our house every week.
Sure.
It's like not waiting for the school report to come, but in fact, we'll be updating my parents.
And that will force you to work hard in school.
Yes. And when I was a teacher, too, we do the same. We go to each of our students, their homes. We know their families. We know their parents. We can go to them and tell them what is happening. That is what is missing.
Yeah.
Because parents also don't even visit their teachers, their students in school. You call for a parent-teacher meeting today.
That's true.
90% of the parents will not show up.
Would call maybe a friend.
Exactly. I know this thing I'm about to raise is a bit controversial. Some people will even suggest, I mean, corporal punishment. We used to have it in school. Students were very disciplined. But as you are watching, the president has now entered the chamber. He's been escorted by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Fabakary Tombong Jatta, and standing ovation there. I mean, the president is now about to assume his seat, and any moment from now, then the speaker will make an introductory statement, and then the president will write out his statement. Just to remind you, those feeds we're getting it from GRTS. Let's now go to the National Assembly chambers.
Offices of rulers and parliament for the welfare of society and the just government of men. We beseech thee to behold with thy abundant favor us thy servants, whom thou hast been pleased to call to the performance of important trusts in this land. Let thy blessings descend upon us here in this house assembly. Grant us that we may treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner to promote thy honor and glory, to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of this country and of those whose interests thou hast committed to our care. Amen. Communication from the chair. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Gambia, His Excellency Mr. Adam Barrow, Your Excellency the Vice President of the Republic, Your Excellencies former Vice Presidents, my Lord the Chief Justice and Judges of the Gambia, former Honorable Speakers of the National Assembly, Honorable Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ministers and former Ministers here and present, Honorable Members of the National Assembly and former National Assembly members, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, service chiefs, presidential advisors, leaders of political parties, Lord Mayors and regional governors, permanent secretaries, directors, and senior government officials, our distinguished chiefs, chefs, distinguished invited guests, the press, all other protocols duly and respectfully observed. Honorable members, in accordance with Section 77(1) of the 1997 Constitution and Order 24(1) of the Standing Orders, His Excellency Mr. Adam Barrow, President of the Republic of the Gambia, is here today to attend and address a sitting of the National Assembly on the condition of the Gambia, the policies of government, and the administration of state. In this regard, I wish to extend on behalf of both sides of the Assembly a warm welcome to His Excellency the President to the National Assembly. Honorable members, His Excellency's presence in this Assembly today is significant in our parliamentary calendar. It will enable honorable members of the legislature to have the opportunity to hear from the head of the executive, that's the president, on the condition of the Gambia, the policies of government, and the administration of the state. Honorable members, This year marks the President's first State of the Nation address to the 6th legislature in our democratic dispensation. Traditionally, this particular session of the Assembly attracts Gambians and people from all walks of life. Therefore, I want to seize this opportunity on behalf of both sides of the Assembly to welcome you all here. On that note, I wish to once again welcome His Excellency the President to the National Assembly in fulfillment of his constitutional mandate. I thank you very much. Honorable Clerk, can we continue?
Motion. State of the Nation Address 2022 by His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Gambia. Honorable members, I now have the singular honor and privilege to invite His Excellency the
President of the Republic of the Gambia, President Adama Barrow, to deliver his address. Your Excellency, please.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First, I will start with the introductory remarks. Honorable Speaker, honorable members of the National Assembly, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank Allah the Almighty for His grace and glory and for making this legislative session possible. The event is a mandatory provision of the Constitution, and it creates the necessary atmosphere to hold an annual interface between the executive and the legislature. As this is my first formal engagement with this august body, I will begin by congratulating the honorable members of this session. Once again, congratulations to all of you. I pray that we ably discharge our duties and responsibilities with honor and glory for the nation. Mr. Speaker, very complex and challenging circumstances inform my address this morning. It portrays the experience of a transformed nation, a nation of peace-loving people who stood up to dictatorship in a peaceful manner, embraced democracy, and embarked upon reconciliation and national development. These achievements came about through the political context that gave rise to the 2016 coalition and the sense of national unity and commitment which brought about the alliances leading to the last presidential and legislative elections. Alongside these developments were the hostile global context and the numerous internal challenges that characterized the country's 5-year transition period, 2017 to 2022. The emergence of COVID-19 pandemic, with its dreadful consequences globally, was in the country's economic situation. Furthermore, in a twist of fortune, what appeared to be a relief and hope for a new dawn of recovery is dampened by the Russia-Ukraine war. The address highlights my administration's performance, derived from the performance of our formal national institutions. It is a sector-specific based on major public programs and projects. Legislative issues relevant to the functions of this assembly, matters of national significance, and proposed interventions. Because it focuses on the institutional arrangements of the last legislative year, I will mention the new ministries briefly. For reason of constraint, the address is concise, but additional details on the themes are provided in the accompanying report. The sequence of the sectors is arbitrary, but I will begin with the finance sector, as this will cast light on the underlying circumstances, considerations, and arrangements that influence the decisions and events mentioned in my deliberations. Finance and Economic Affairs, Honorable Speaker. Despite the significant impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the Gambian economy, growth rebounded to 4.5% in 2021. Although the growth remained below the pre-pandemic levels, it was still significant. However, the slowdown of business activities in 2020 and the third wave of the virus in July 2021 affected the economy's recovery. In 2022, the economy could have been well into recovery, with expectations of improved economic performance, increased grant inflows, and private remittances. Unfortunately, it took a different trend as economies across the globe grapple with the impact of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Consequently, in June, the government projected a more modest growth of 3.6% for 2022. Revenue collection for the first 2 months of 2022 declined by 14% against the same period in 2021. Prompted by this development, the government resolved to formulate robust policies that would set up buffers against shocks and enhance domestic revenue mobilization. Notwithstanding the challenges, the fourth review of the extended credit facility with the IMF was successfully completed in December 2021. We remain committed to sound economic policy management as detailed in the medium-term economic fiscal framework 2022-2026. The framework is to improve macro-fiscal stability. With the support of the United Nations Development Programme, the initial stages of the formulation of a recovery-focused National Development Plan, RFNDP, 2023-2027, and a long-term development vision, LTDV 2050, have started. The RFNDP will succeed the National Development Plan 2018-2021, and the LTDV will succeed Vision 20 for the country's long-term development targets and transformation. The Gambia was among 44 countries that presented their voluntary national reviews, VNRs, on the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals during the high-level political forum held in New York in July 2022. The reviews facilitate the sharing of experiences. Partners commended the Gambia for the inclusive and participatory nature of its VNR and the policies and strategies being implemented to accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda. The Gambia's total debt service payment in 2021 was $5.01 billion. Of this, $1.9 billion was external debt service payment, and $3.1 billion was domestic debt service payment. The debt service payment increased by 11.1%, from $4.5 billion in 2020 to $5 billion in 2021. There was no debt service suspension initiative received compared to the preceding year. As update on the Public Finance Management, PFM, the PFM Act is under revision to address the weaknesses. Once finalized, the public finance regulations and institutions will be revised. Our public finance management reforms include a treasury single account to ensure better treasury management functions. Also initiated is a public financial management strategy 2021-2025. To address weaknesses in the financial management of local government authorities and ensure effective use of the IFMIS. To conclude, Cabinet have approved the Public-Private Partnership PPP bill for tabling by this August Assembly. It speaks to the revised national PPP policy and operational guidelines. Foreign affairs, international corporations, and Gambians abroad. Honorable Speaker, during the last 5 years, the country's diplomacy registered many successes, resulting in visits to the Gambia by various foreign dignitaries and scaling up of bilateral relations with different countries around the world. Our partnerships at the multilateral level have generated support for many projects in diverse areas of development. Furthermore, the Foreign Service contributed significantly to mobilizing support to complement the country's COVID response when it mattered. The international community recognizes our commitment to dialogue and peace. No wonder the United Nations Secretary General's yearly report of the Peace Building Commission singled out the Gambia as a model for preventive diplomacy. Our commitment to building and sustaining peace continues to attract material and financial assistance from the Secretary General's Peace Building Fund and other international partners. We maintain fruitful strategic relations with ECOWAS member states and actively engage and support mediation processes under the auspices of the African Union and ECOWAS. Within ECOWAS, the Gambia now holds the position of President of the ECOWAS Commission with effect from June 2022. For the first time in our history, the Gambia has a seat on the United Nations Human Rights Council for a 3-year term effective from January 2022. At the level of the African Union, the Gambia also received overwhelming votes to sit on the Peace and Security Council. Mr. Speaker, as of January 2022, remittances stood at $777 million, representing about 40% of GDP. Pride and role of Gambians in the diaspora in national development therefore remain high on my government's agenda. We will continue to engage with them meaningfully and remain active in global discussions to address migration concerns. Finally, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reformulating its strategic plan, scheme of service, and posting policy. Also underway is the drafting of a foreign service bill and regulation to uphold excellence and efficiency within the sector. Agriculture, Honorable Speaker. Last year, the agriculture sector registered increases above national average in the production levels of crops, such as paddy, maize, millet, groundnut, and sesame. The production of key commodities like vegetables, fruits, milk, and eggs also increased. As a result, per capita availability of these food items has increased, even though both population and demand increase. Due to increased support from FAO and WFP, commercial poultry farming increased by about 40% in 2021. At present, the Ministry of Agriculture is implementing 8 major projects with a total portfolio of about $294.13 million mobilized through partner support. These projects are jointly funded by government and partners, such as the Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Food Programme, the African Development Bank, and the Islamic Development Bank. The projects are outlined in the report. To boost the incomes of farming households, the government has in the past 5 years invested heavily to modernize and transform agriculture sector. As a result, through donor-funded projects, the sector was able to reach 300 communities, those opening 6,000 hectares for rice cultivation, 400 hectares for vegetable production, and more than 100 poultry schemes to boost the availability of poultry meat and locally produced eggs. These investments and their results have laid a solid foundation for the sector's investment plan. Government plans to create a fund that will carry about 70% guarantee to the financial institutions for credit financing of agricultural investments by either individuals or SMEs. Hopefully, this will induce the needed capital to transform and modernize agriculture in the country. Environment, Honorable Speaker. Regardless of the country's low contribution to global emission, it has taken a lead role in climate action through our revised nationally determined contribution to the Paris Agreement, where we committed ourselves with international support to reducing emission by 49.7% by 2030. The international community recognizes the Gambia as the only country on track to achieving the Paris Agreement temperature goal of 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2050. Notwithstanding this, the Gambia is vulnerable to the negative impact of climate change, as shown by the frequency of hailstorms and floods. To mitigate this, the government developed relevant policy documents and implemented adaptation and resilience building projects amounting to $36 million in the last 5 years, in the past 5 years. Closely related to climate change are issues around the misuse of chemicals and hazardous materials. In this respect, the National Environment Agency has formulated a bill on pesticide and chemical management for submission to the National Assembly after finalization. For proper management and use of the coastal and marine resources in the country, the government will enforce the Integrated Coastal Zone Management Bill after its enactment. To conclude, I commend the sector for their efforts to rehabilitate the degraded mangrove and forest cover in the country. We applaud them also for the increase in the non-timber products, such as honey, handicrafts, fruits, and nuts. Health, Honorable Speaker. Over the last 5 years, my government successfully expanded and developed healthcare services to improve infrastructure, personnel, and supplies on a reformed health financing landscape. A major achievement of my administration is the introduction of the Gambia National Health Insurance Scheme. The act to establish the scheme became effective in November 2021 to particularly benefit the poor and the vulnerable, while serving as a social safety net. Key health indicators have improved notably. For example, maternal and child mortality has declined. Skilled birth attendance, postnatal care, and nutrition have improved considerably. On training, the Gambia now offers postgraduate training at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. In addition, the UTG offers health-related programs at bachelor's level. Government introduction of community ambulance service following the distribution of 80 new ambulances in areas without health facilities is widely applauded in the country. We will see how it evolves as the new National Health Policy 2021-2030 and the National Health Strategic Plan 2021-2025 guide the sector's activities. There is a wide range of construction works in progress to expand services throughout the country. Ongoing, for example, is the construction of a National Emergency Treatment Center, National Laboratory Center, and Blood Transfusion Center in Farata. Development of the Civil Registration and Vital Statistics Bill 2022 is ongoing for submission to the National Assembly when finalized. It is meant to create universal access to health services. Basic and secondary education, Honorable Speaker. The basic and secondary education sector remains committed to providing result-oriented programs to improve access and quality education, and to remove inequities in education service delivery. As such, the sector will conduct a mid-term review of the 2016-2030 education sector policy, jointly prepared by the Ministries of Basic and Secondary Education and Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology. The country continues to register impressive progress at all levels of the education sector, and it is pleasing that female students now have higher gross enrollment and net enrollment rates at all levels, from ECD and lower basic to the upper basic and senior secondary school levels. To meet the increasing demand for education, the number of schools increased correspondingly by 102 between 2020 and 2021. With partnership, government built 2,597 new classrooms and 3,106 vehicles during the last 5 years. Additional 498 classrooms and 456 toilet cubicles are under construction, and 1,076 rooms for teacher accommodation are already in use around the country. There are plans to increase the number to ease accommodation challenges for teachers. Honorable National Assembly members, through the collaboration with the Gambia College and the University of the Gambia, 1,162 more teachers were trained in 2021. During the same period, qualified teachers for the upper basic and senior secondary school levels increased by 480 and 338 respectively. Although enrollment at the secondary and upper levels remained low in 2021, the sector registered substantial improvements on the pass rate for the 2021 Gambia Basic Education Certificate Examination and the West African Senior School Certificate Examination. Similarly, girls' performance at the West African Senior School Certificate Examination was improved slightly. The grade 12 WAS results show that 2,882 female candidates had 5 credits or more in 2020, an increase from 2019 figures of 2,797 female students. Overall performance continues to improve. Finally, to expand opportunities and education access for out-of-school children, enrollment for the Second Chance Education Program has increased, and it now leads from the Gabisi to WAS. It strongly indicates that this policy decision has a positive impact on our young people, who would otherwise be left without fewer options to better their lives. We appreciate and will continue to strengthen the partnerships established with our partners, UNICEF, the World Food Programme, the World Bank, Islamic Development Bank, Badia, OFIT, MRC Holland Foundation, the QTV Fund, and most recently, EU stand out among them. We thank them immensely. Higher education, research, science, and technology. Honorable Speaker, the education, research, science, and technology sector is going through a transformation phase that would lead to the much desired institutional and infrastructural development in the country. In the area of infrastructure, government has completed 100% of the civil works of the University of the Gambia UTG Faraba Banta Campus project, after inheriting it with less than 1% implementation status. The upgrading of the Wascal campus made it possible to begin doctoral programs on climate change and adaptive land use in country. Annually, 10 Gambians go to other postgraduate Wascal centers in the sub-region. Alongside program delivery within the sector, the RIPGAM Renewable Energy Project is working to solarize 23 villages and train over 200 Gambian youths in renewable energy management. Honorable Speaker, the GTTI is now the University of Applied Science, Engineering and Technology, and it operates through mentorship programs. About 100 undergraduate students have enrolled as the first and second batches on the electronic, mechanical, and civil engineering degree programs. The Gambia will train more students at PhD level to complement the academic and administrative staff of the new university. Meanwhile, the foundation stone was laid recently to relocate the institution. At present, about 486 Gambians have awards and are pursuing higher education courses in the country and abroad. Many of them are in the sciences. In the interim, the UTG PhD programs are expanding gradually. The Ministry of Higher Education is equally upgrading the Management Development Institute MDI into a degree awarding institution. At present, over 21 students have enrolled on the institution's degree supported by SOCDE of Senegal. These degree programs will help us to realize the civil service reform objectives and strengthen the workforce. Similarly, the Gambia College Schools of Agriculture, Nursing and Public Health are part of the UTG to offer degree programs. The Gambia College Annex in Basse complement these efforts by training teachers within URR. Because of the need for skills development programs, the Julangel and Field Centers will intensify training efforts in this area. Both are fully operational in URR and LRR. To boost this, the revitalized Ndemban and Kanelai skill centers in West Coast region will begin operations soon. With the support of the Korea International Cooperation Agency and UNESCO, the Gambia TVET Policy 2021-2030 is now in operations. Significantly as well, the ministry has validated the country's first ever national research policy to promote research in the country. Incidentally, the Gambia is known for its quality research works, especially in the medical and biological sciences. The policy will strengthen this success. Petroleum and energy, Honorable Speaker. Like other sectors, the COVID pandemic affected petroleum exploration, which the Russia-Ukraine war has worsened. Despite this, FAR and Petronas successfully completed the drilling of Bambo 1 in December 2021. This is an offshore exploration well. We keenly await the results on this endeavor. On energy, a welcome development is the respective commissioning of the ONVG substations in Brikama and Soma last year. Since the inauguration of the Soma substation in October 2021, NAWEC has been receiving power through the 225 kV ONVG line. In March 2022, NAWEC signed a 50 megawatt power purchase agreement with Senelec and began receiving 30 megawatt of this capacity in April. In addition to the 20 megawatt solar plant in Jambur, feasibility studies for the 150 megawatt solar park are ongoing. Execution ends in 2025. The NAMA project under UNDP will also provide 10 megawatt solar energy between Farafenni and Basse. Mr. Speaker, works on the electrification to attain the 2025 universal access goal set by my government is in high gear. This program will provide electricity access to 685 villages and modernize the network transmission and distribution systems. Recently, the Gambia signed a $25 million US grant agreement with the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the US, and the National Assembly ratified it for implementation. It will elevate NAWEC's operations and strengthen the governance and regulatory frameworks of the electricity subsector. Honorable members, plans are afoot to solve the water sources through the Indian government-supported project, to which the World Bank and the African Development Bank contribute. Furthermore, my administration has resolved to separate the water business from the electricity business at NAWEC and have them as two independent corporations. This initiative will make a difference in the country. Tourism, Honorable Speaker. The The pandemic hit the tourism sector badly, but we expect them to bounce back soon. In 2021, arrivals stood at 102,460, marking an increase of over 14%, and the future looks bright. Since the beginning of the 2021-2022 tourism season, 53 flights arrive per week. Meanwhile, the ministry is exploring various ways to find the sector and is expanding destination activities and products. Subsector in April of this year, the National Center for Arts and Culture embarked on a multi-million-dollar project geared to strengthening national capacities for safeguarding intangible cultural heritage, ICH, and contributing to sustainable development in the Gambia 2020-2024. Funded by UNESCO, the project aims at complementing to safeguard our heritage. We will continue to support this important sector. Gender, social welfare, Honorable Speaker. To begin with regulation, government will continue to initiate policies and programs that address the needs and aspirations of the people, especially the vulnerable population. Hence the formulation of the Gender Policy 2023-2032. Currently, the Disability Act 2021 is in force and will inform the formulation of a disability policy and program of action 2022-2032. To address emerging issues on child protection, the Children's Act 2005 is also under review to give way to the National Children Policy 2022-2032. Honorable Speaker, gender and women empowerment is a critical enabler of sustained and progressive development. Therefore, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Welfare will table a cabinet paper on a national gender mainstreaming strategy. It will remain to enhance the capacity of women in small and medium-scale enterprises, SMEs, by scaling up the Women Enterprise Fund. I am happy to state that the fund surpasses the targeted small and medium-scale from 23,000 enterprises. Government provided the entire $7 fund. Through the Family Strengthening Program, the ministry provided 750,000 support to 300 vulnerable families and 150 vulnerable assist vulnerable families and persons through cash transfers. Youth and sports. Honorable Speaker, to promote youth and sports development, of youth and sports is working to reorganize and restructure its satellite institutions by reviewing their acts. The outcome of the regional forums on the review of the National Sports Policy and the National Youth and Sport Act will guide the remaining stages of the process. In the meantime, the National Youth Service Scheme has enrolled 150 young people for apprenticeship and skill acquisition training. An additional 150 passed out and proceeded to other institutions. The next phase is to do the program in the coming fiscal year. During the year under review, the President International Award Skill and Enterprise Training Center graduated 225 youth in 9 different trade areas. But the proposed mandatory national service for young Gambians university graduates is still on hold. In the same vein, a series of training programs has been running in various areas for the youth and women in partnership with NABI, GIZ, EU, TF, Go for Africa, and other partners. The award program continues to focus on its nationwide expansion to reach all young people across the country. Current participation level stands at 8,765 young persons. Over 689 youth have already completed the mandatory aspect of the programs, mandatory aspects of the program. Mr. Speaker, the Gambia's performance in international competitions is improving rapidly, as demonstrated in the last African Cup of Nations, the Commonwealth Games, and the last Tokyo Athletics competitions. We congratulate our athletes on results. To strengthen this, of mini stadiums is progressing on 8 sites across the country. We are aware of the works required at the Independent Stadium, and the contracts have been tendered to address the matter. Office of the Vice President. Honorable Speaker, the government formulated a national social protection policy to establish by 2030 an inclusive, integrated, and comprehensive social protection system. It is meant to contribute to broader human development, greater economic productivity, and inclusive growth. The year 2021 was an engaging year for the National Disaster Management Agency, NDMA. The country experienced serious domestic fire outbreaks, windstorms, and flash floods, which took lives and livelihoods. In response, government supported 1,952 households affected by windstorms, each receiving 7,500 monthly for 3 months. In view of the COVID pandemic, my administration distributed rice countrywide through NDMA. Furthermore, it disbursed $450,000 for rice, oil, sugar, mattresses, and other essential items to support 1,161 Senegalese affected by the Sanyang riot. Honorable members, evaluation and revision of the National Population Policy 2007-2011 is in progress. In addition, the National Population Commission will lead the revision for the National Population Commission and its Secretariat to further determine the mandate and authority of the Secretariat. Following the development of a new population policy, the Secretariat will lead the development of an accompanying strategic plan and will establish and train the network of parliamentarians on population and development. We thank UNFPA for their invaluable support. As part of the Civil Service Reform Program 2018-2027, PMO is striving to transform the public service into an efficient, motivated workforce. So, my government has successfully revised the pay and grading structure to rationalize the civil service remuneration package. Effective from July 2022, we increased salaries by 30%. The National Assembly passed the 2022 Public Service Pension Bill in February of this year, and I assented to it. The new act centralizes the administration of civil service pension under the Personal Management Office PMO. This is designed to yield a more rational pension and gratuity to civil servants. To improve performance, PMO with support from the Commonwealth Secretariat is working on the performance management system to hold all ministries, departments, and agencies, MDAs, accountable annually. The MDAs will have to sign a performance contract with the Office of the President for assessment. The top 10 ministries will receive recognition and incentives on an annual basis. In May of this year, the new Ministry of Public Service, Administrative Reforms, Policy Coordination and Delivery took over responsibilities for the civil service in supervision of PMO to achieve my administration's public service reform vision. Information communication infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, there is a strong desire to digitally transform, improve the national ICT infrastructure and strengthen our ICT policies and regulatory frameworks. Key among the steps taken to realize these targets are the formulation of the ICT 4D Master Plan in 2020 and the ongoing review of the IC Act 2009. Added to this, the government through MOISI is implementing the project preparatory stage in advance of the 5-year World Bank funded $45 million Western Africa Regional Digital Integration Project. The project will support the rollout of numerous digital development interventions, which includes the establishment of a second submarine cable to provide adequate backup for the ACE submarine cable. It also has components on strengthening cybersecurity. The formulation of an e-commerce policy and strategy is another key activity of the project, as government accelerates efforts to support the growth of this important industry. This intervention will lead to the next phase of the digital addressing initiative in the West Coast region. The initiative will facilitate assigning digital addresses to about 80,000 properties by December 2022. To fully utilize the share of our national broadband infrastructure, the administration went into a partnership with the EU through the Belgian Development Agency for the implementation of the Gambia Digitalization Project. The objective is to strengthen the sector policy and regulations, develop an integrated infrastructure master plan for effective mobilization of private sector investments, and formulate an e-commerce policy. In a bid to spur technology, enable research and innovation, government is championing the establishment of innovation and tech hubs in all regions of the country. The purpose is to increase employment and opportunities for the youth and women, especially those in rural Gambia. As regards cybersecurity and cybercrime, the sector will table and the privacy and cybercrime bills for this august body to consider. The quest to transform the sector led to the creation of the two separate ministries of information and of communication and digital economy. Transport, works and infrastructure. Honorable Speaker. In 2021, the transport, works and infrastructure sector registered impressive achievements despite challenges posed by the COVID pandemic and slow economic growth. In the road sector, my administration successfully completed the $82 million China Aid Roads and Bridges project in the URI. Likewise, relying on local resources and funding, the major rural secondary paved roads program on the north and south banks is progressing satisfactorily. In the capital city of Banjul, the government rolled out the Banjul City Rehabilitation Project to reconstruct the city's dilapidated roads, sewage and drains using local funds. Relentless efforts will continue to modernize Banjul. With support of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, and the Islamic Development Bank, the Greater Banjul Area project are moving forward steadily. Equally, the construction of 50 kilometers of urban feeder roads in the Greater Banjul area has commenced. Government has finalized the maintenance and reconstruction contracts using the road fund for the proper upkeep of select in the Greater Banjul area and the North Bank and the Central River regions. The estimated cost is $617,296,691.73 buttons. In addition, my administration has rolled out a massive reconstruction program of markets in growth centers where the need is most urgent. Already, the new Soma LRR and Farafenni NBD markets were completed last year and are fully functional. Similarly, constructed at a cost of $112 million and inaugurated earlier this year, the new Basse main market is now a magnificent center of attraction and a busy business hub in URR. Linked to public structures, Building Facilities Management Bill is with this Assembly for consideration. It is a new framework for effective management of government estates, offices, and overseas buildings. Turning attention to the port, the Banjul Port Expansion Project is ongoing, and expansion of the container storage yard is now complete. The Banjul Jetty Extension and Basse Dry Port Development Project are the next areas of focus. Ferry services play a vital role in linking the north and south banks, although ferry crossing remains a challenge. In the year under review, the Ferry Service Authority improved the Banjul Barrow route service and restore the Barajali ferry service. The procurement of a new ferry at a cost of €10 million to augment the Banjul Barrow route service is at an advanced stage. The Gambia Port Authority expects its delivery in This new ferry will have the capacity to carry 44 cars and 600 passengers. A new ferry route between Banjul and Albreda is under consideration. The route will run from Banjul through Mandinari and Bonto to Albreda. In addition to the parts of the West Coast region, it will serve the southern part of Nyomi and communities along the Hakalang corridor. Mr. Speaker, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to pose a significant threat to international aviation. In 2021, the Banjul International Airport staff welcomed and processed about 200,473 passengers, a slight increase of 0.05 compared to 2020. The estimated growth rates are small. Indication is that the Gambia may reach pre-COVID passenger levels by 2025 at the earliest. On the airport, through the support of South Development, the state-of-the-art VVIP launch is under construction ahead of the Organization of Islamic Conference Heads of State and Government Summit, which the Gambia will host. Defense, Honorable Speaker. In line with the security sector reform process, the Ministry of Defense has developed three important policy documents, namely the National Security Policy, National Security Strategy, and the first ever National Defense Policy. The drafting of the strategic plan has commenced. Other outdated military regulatory books, which include the Gambia Armed Forces Act 1985 and the Terms and Conditions of Service for Officers and Soldiers 1993, have been redrafted, taking cue from international best practices. Development of the supporting regulatory frameworks is also in progress. The Gambia Armed Forces is broadening engagements with civil society to maintain a cordial relationship with the public. In addition to collaborating closely with other security agencies, it provides security, participates in maintaining peace and order, and goes further to support war veterans. Following the recent conflict in Casamance between the MFDC and the Senegalese Armed Forces, the Gambia Armed Forces play a crucial role in diffusing the tension and restoring calm. Its troops continue to conduct routine patrols in the area to maintain peace and security. Besides plans to expand provision of educational and health services, the Gambia Armed Forces intends to construct a capable of conducting surgical operations. I must mention before concluding that 500 Gambian personnel benefited from training facilitated by the British Army during the past 5 years, from other training programs and joint activities under the Turkey-Gambia Military Cooperation Agreement, and other 500 personnel of the Gambia Quick Reaction Force recently completed training in Turkey. We are grateful to the British and Turkish government for their massive support. Trade industry, regional integration and employment. Honorable Speaker, in the past 5 years, the Ministry of Trade implemented programs and projects that attracted investments and supported the development of trade and the private sector. We regret, however, the COVID-19 pandemic and the recent Russia-Ukraine war has impacted negatively on food importation in the world. These external shocks have led to price hikes. To mitigate the impact, government has been adopting since 2020. For instance, we supported local producers, particularly the flour milling companies, to cushion the cost of production and minimize the price of flour. To promote stability, the ministry is working with importers to increase importation and supply of essential commodities and stabilize commodity prices. The review of the national trade policy is in progress to develop appropriate instruments that would improve the Gambia's competitive edge and strengthen the productive sectors. That aside, as the Gambia prepares to start trading under the AFCFTA framework, we now have a 10-year AFCFTA National Implementation Strategy 2021-2031 to optimize the benefits from the AFCFTA, the Senegambia Bridge will serve as a catalyst to attract strategic investment and contribute to the diversification of the economy. In a related matter, we participate actively in ECOWAS integration programs and have a national regional integration policy and strategy 2021-2025. On investment and export promotion, the Trade Ministry through GAIPA developed a new export strategy 2021-2025. It outlines key priority areas for the realization of our national export development aspirations. Mr. Speaker, during the last 5 years, GAIPA attracted 39 companies in manufacturing, agriculture, tourism, and fisheries, among other areas of interest. These amounted to a total investment of $154 million and created 2,274 jobs. The Ministry of Trade will launch the Entrepreneurship Development Fund this year to support protect industries and businesses with a soft revolving loan scheme on a more sustainable basis. The institutional structure of the Entrepreneurship Development Fund Trust Committee has been set up, and GAIPA serves as the secretariat for the fund. My government has reduced the business incorporation fee from $10,000 to $4,000 to assess the market conditions for the establishment of a credit reporting system to improve on the business. On employment creation, the sector launched the Gambia Labor Force Survey in 2021 to provide up-to-date statistics on the labor market. As a result, a new National Employment Policy and Action Plan 2022-2026 are available to pursue government's commitment to addressing unemployment issues. During the reporting period, the Techifi program and the Youth Empowerment Project supported over 4,500 Gambians with skills training and provided finance and startup support to more than 1,500 young entrepreneurs. The Yet Mini Loan Scheme, implemented in partnership with the Social Development Fund, provided $11 million of private capital to young entrepreneurs. On the Yet Young Entrepreneurs had close to $25 million disbursed to them as small business grants. To strengthen labor administration, the ministry reviewed and updated the Labor Act 2007 and established an employment service center to link job seekers and employers. There is an accompanying 5-year strategic plan to effectively operationalize the employment service center. The legal sector, Honorable Speaker, as the Constitution remains a top priority, my government is determined to oversee the crafting of a new Constitution for the Gambia. Therefore, the Ministry of Justice will resume work towards tabling a draft Constitution before this August Assembly. As part of its mandate, the Ministry will continue leading the review and harmonization of existing legislation with particular focus on laws that suppress freedoms and rights. For now, bills on criminal justice reform, mutual legal assistance are before this Assembly. I hope they will be dealt with eventually. Among other bills tabled before the National Assembly is the Anti-Corruption Bill 2020, which seeks to establish an anti-corruption commission after enactment to uproot corruption. Cabinet recently approved the Intellectual Property Bill 2021 to streamline the administration of intellectual property rights in the Gambia and have a centralized intellectual system. Following the submission of the TRRC report last year, Cabinet approved the relevant government white paper in May 2022 for implementation. Mr. Speaker, with 3 years of existence, the NHRC proved to be fully compliant with the Paris principles. As a result, the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions granted it A status. To the credit of government and the Commission, the African Commission on Human and People's Rights also granted it affiliated status. Thus, it can share submission with them on human rights issues within the country. We will support its attainment of first-class accreditation status. The Ministry is committed to the construction of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights headquarters as part of government's contribution towards hosting the Secretariat. It proposed
its purpose is to transform the Gambia into the capital of human rights promotion. On the international front, the Gambia will pursue to the end the case of justice for the Rohingya before the International Court of Justice. It is encouraging the Netherlands and Canada have joined us to end the genocide of the Rohingya. Mr. Speaker, the role of the courts in providing access to quality justice delivery constitutes the pillars of a stable democracy, peace, and development. As a result, my administration is committed to supporting the judiciary's growth and development, recruitment of judicial experts, particularly qualified Gambians, and maintenance of its independence and impartiality. To achieve this noble goal, the executive will collaborate with the Chief Justice and the Judicial Commission. We honor them with their achievements. We honor them and celebrate their achievements with them. The subsector is aware of the need to expand the implementation of post-transitional justice mechanism, redress victims of rights violation, and scale up advocacy on healing and reconciliation. We will remain supportive of the judiciary as it addresses these issues and evolves to maintain public trust and respect. Fisheries, water resources, and National Assembly matters. Honorable Speaker, the fisheries sector contributes about 12% to GDP and provides direct employment to over 30,000 people. It has an enormous potential to contribute to the economy and reducing the unemployment rates. The new policy, medium-term strategic document, and plan of action for the sector are ready for validation. Once finalized, the Ministry of Fisheries will work towards amending the Fisheries Act and regulations. With partner support, the sector is expanding use of fish processing and preservation technologies to contribute to the economic viability of small-scale fish smoking of women. They constitute up to 80% of post-harvest fisheries operators in the sector. In the major operations to combat illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, the Gambia Navy, police force, and volunteer fishermen recently seized and destroyed over 500 illegal fishing traps and tried 5 before competent district. It flags the need for sustained vigilance. My government will table 2 agreements before this Honorable Assembly for ratification. They are between the government of the Gambia and the government of Senegal on fisheries and aquaculture, and the government of Ghana on fisheries. The sector will also introduce to this honorable body a bill to provide an comprehensive water act for the Gambia and a bill to establish a new national water resources management authority. Correspondingly, the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services and partners are collaborating with the World Meteorological Organization to implement the National for Climate Services and intensify action to address climate risks and related issues. I encourage the private sector and other actors to team up with the government to fully harness the opportunities created and reduce the hazards associated with the climate system. Lands, local government, and religious affairs. Honorable Speaker. As population growth poses challenges to land usage, land resources are under tremendous strain globally. Accordingly, my administration recognizes that prudent management of these precious resources is essential for poverty reduction and national food security. The Ministry of Lands, Regional Government and Religious Affairs must execute these functions effectively and impartially. On programs and projects, the sector is currently implementing 20 workshop projects with a total fund disbursement capacity of $21,231,460. The sub-projects take the form of water supply systems, grading and culvert construction. The second phase accommodates 12 additional wards in URR North and South. Moving on, the Directorate of
governance, and decentralization is set to roll out the integrated financial management information system to all the local government councils to improve sound fiscal management. The COVID outbreak delayed the process initially. The project cost estimate is $7,810,200, which the government and UNDP will provide. Honorable members, the sector is reviewing the Local Government Act 2002, the Finance and Audit Act 2004, and the Local Government Service Scheme. The objective is to make them responsive to government's evolving local governance and decentralization policy. In recognition of the role of the village heads, Alkalolo, in their communities, my administration now pays every Alkalo a monthly responsibility allowance of $3,000 with effect from January 2022. Finally, the NGO bill is ready for enactment as the NGO Act 2021. Interior, Honorable Speaker, the Gambia Police Force continues to protect life and property and preserve law and order for peace and stability. To this end, the Gambia Police Force, with the support of local and international partners, will focus its strategic plan and core values to align them with the national security policy, national security strategy, national security sector reform strategy. To this, the Gambia Police Force has developed 14 operational instruments that operate procedures and guidelines and a national community policing strategy. To briefly comment on its operations, the Gambia Police Force currently has 25 community policing programs and 175 active community policing structures supported by community policing volunteers. Together with other security services, I commend them for their effective participation in the last two national elections. They promoted impartiality and democratic policing values. To avert attrition and enhance adequate security for the upcoming OIC summit from 2021 to date, the Gambia Police Force recruited 1,200 personnel and conducted 63 training programs for 1,812 police officers in critical areas of policing. And the Gambia Immigration collaborated with the Geneva Center for Security Sector Governance to amend the current 25 Immigration Act and align it with standards. As referenced in their Strategic Plan 2019-2024, this amendment will lead to the enhancement of the Immigration Service Act 2023. The Gambia Immigration Department contributes to the national revenue in several ways. In this respect, the department collected $91,980,370 in 2020, which increased by about 12% in 2021 to $103,362,940. Revenue collection for 2022 is likely to be higher. We commend them for this achievement. The Gambia Fire and Rescue Service works to safeguard life and property. In this light, the Gambia Fire Service received and responded to 1,128 emergency calls in 2021. Of these, 823 were related to fire incidents and 305 were rescue calls. They rescued 228 persons alive, but there were 29 fatalities. This highlights the need for vigilance in our homes and at sea. The Gambia Prison Act of 1953 Amendment Bill 2022 had cabinet approval prior to its submission to the National Assembly. The enactment of the bill is meant to repeal key colonial legal provisions on prison officers and inmates and institute international standards and best practices. The review of the Drug Control Act 2003 for amendment is at an advanced stage. The new bill incorporates international protocols and treaties, and the ministry will table it here
for consideration. In the interim, it is necessary to impress upon the anti-drug agency the need for vigilance to free the nation from drug abuse and trafficking. Department for Strategy, Policy and Delivery, Honorable Speaker. The Department for Strategy, Policy and Delivery, DSPD, under the Office of the President, provide policy support to the sectors and convenes National Economic Council meetings and organizes retreats for permanent secretaries. It also supports the Cabinet Office. The Department coordinates the
Well, viewers, you're still watching QTV, and that is the President of the Republic, His Excellency President Adam Barrow. They are delivering his 2022 State of Nation address. By the way, we are getting those feeds from GRTS, and there seem to be some technical issues there, but then we hope to resolve our connection. Has been able to achieve, some of the policies, programs, of course, legislations as well, from economy, trade, youth and sports, tourism, agriculture, fisheries. Virtually, he has so far covered all the sectors. Just few sectors remaining to go. And Sumana, you have heard from the president. He has talked about a lot. Just before this break, you heard him talk about that. The cabinet is currently trying to review the Gambia Prison Act. The Drug Control Act amendment. So far, so good. What's your take, having heard from the president so far in his speech?
Yeah, you're very right there on some of the policy, documents that his government is reviewing, and some that they intend to table before Parliament as well. I think they're all geared towards the government's reform agenda, but also to strengthen some of our public institutions, and to support our national development. Now, he also did praise GRA for what he says is commendable work that they're doing, that they've been living up to expectation, which I think we've highlighted before. He also did talk about, CD was pretty much concerned about GAIPA. Okay. He said GAIPA in the past 5 years brought in about 39 investors, businesses into the country. And, there's been this return of over $100 million that we've made, in the past 5 years through GAIPA. So, that's some welcoming news. And also he did talk about the Ministry of Trade having plans to launch, in the very near future, a support initiative for young people who want to go into business. These are the kind of things we were talking about, and that's what we wanted to see. I'm glad he's also highlighted some of these things. But the proposed reforms within the prisons and other security departments,
Drug Control Act and all those things.
Yeah. I think they need to expedite the process. Work on it as soon as possible, so that at least it would, reinvigorate that hope we used to have within this very important service providers. But again, it's an important speech, and I'm sure with time, before the end of the day, people would even have the opportunity to read through the entire statement and be able to scrutinize deeply. And make sense of what are some of these things that are being highlighted in the report. But so far,
and that's why after this thing, perhaps by next week, the parliamentarians will start debating on the president's address. Yes, he also spoke about education. He said, the WAS performance has been improving. This is something that many people will tend to disagree, judging by the recent WAS result.
Yes, well, if you ask me, I would say we've had a serious drop in quality, and I think the numbers are there, the figures are there to support that. improving. I'm not sure in what sense exactly we're improving, but I have this belief personally that that is one area where we're not doing quite well, and I think I would agree on that one.
And Sidi, welcome back. I mean, we have interruption there. We're getting those feeds from GRTS. I mean, you've been following the president's statement. I mean, corruption is something that he has touched on, and then as we know right now, the anti-corruption bill is still in Parliament. I understand it is now at the consideration stage, but isn't it taking too long to have this anti-corruption bill passed?
Yes, it is taking too long. Yes, the president talked about it, and he talks about corruption. Very important. You see, where we are now as a country, when you talk about corruption, this should have not been the thing for now. This should have been done, say, for the last parliament. And also people in office must show leadership and respect for service and duty. And, corruption involves everybody. Everybody. The trader, selling peanut on the side of the road.
Let's say, I understand we are back. Let's now go back to the chamber where the president is delivering his address.
As well as emerging ones. I must observe, however, that we will tackle the thematic areas within the administration's broader and holistic approach to national development. Thus, infrastructure, health, agriculture, digital technology, the economy, and other areas of development will continue to receive. The minority group women, the youth, and people with disability will attract special focus in the process. Mr. Speaker, honorable members of the National Assembly, my government offers the nation a new socio-political order not tied to social preferences, partisan, or any form of extremism. This is a national order purely for patriotic service and development. I plead that we embrace it as a calls for sincere intelligence. The notion is that the honorable members of this assembly have three functions to perform. That is representation, legislation, and oversight. Your responsibilities certainly go beyond three. The mantle of leadership casts upon you by virtue of your membership of the national legislature, and the fortune of being a family head or belonging to a family and community. Your social effect upon you to foster peace and cohesion in your community at large. You have the responsibility to educate your constituencies, the opportunity to initiate development and program, and the option to engage government, open to dialogue, and I ask we work together. Aside legislators, you have the role of representing at international forums and holding meetings with foreign philanthropists. This creates an opportunities for you to promote national policies and plans and raise funds for national development. The diverse composition of it spells a new era and a new outlook for the legislature. So you must not allow any party interest to overshadow your tenure and performance. In whatever you do, let the interest of the nation come first. To deliver is impressive that you walk along some line. In whatever you do, let the interest of the nation come first. To deliver, it is impressive that you walk along bipartisan lines to fulfill the people's aspirations and safeguard the honor of those who choose you to represent them. As I always emphasize, the opportunities are much greater today, and there is no justification for any citizen to anticipate gloom for the country. May Allah grant us a successful legislative session, full of grace, development, and a lot of opportunities and advancement.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Honorable members, any seconder? Honorable member for Kantora and Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to second the motion. I equally seize the opportunity to thank the side of the minority sides and your humble office for effectively coordinating this Senate Day more professional. I also thank my majority membership, and of course, by extension, the leader of the minority and the group for gracing the occasion. Participating in this one effectively. So on that note, thank you so much for indulgence.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that this assembly do consider the motion on the State of the Nation's Address 2022 delivered by His Excellency the President of the Republic. Those in favor, please say aye. Not in favor, please say no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, the consideration and debate proper on the motion so tabled will now be adjourned until Monday, 19 September 2022, to give honorable members ample time to digest the said address. But before I adjourn this sitting, please allow me, on behalf of both sides of the August Assembly, and indeed on my own behalf, thank His Excellency the President of the Republic for his well-delivered State of the Nation address. Of course, it is a statutory duty, but you all agree with me that the address deserves commendation for the manner in which it was delivered. The address has outlined the condition of the Gambia, the policies of the government, and the administration of the state. This assembly will therefore, in the next few days, reflect and debate on the policy statement so well delivered here in this August Assembly. The statement will also give us an opportunity to reflect on the achievements and challenges we face as a nation and the urgent need for national unity, peace and stability to propel the development needs and aspirations of our dear motherland. As the people's representatives, we are charged to do our best to ensure that policies and programs outlined in His Excellency's address are thoroughly scrutinized and debated with due diligence. In the same vein, we are also obliged as honorable members of the National Assembly to support the progressive policies and programs of the government for the betterment of our great country, the Gambia. It is also important for us to have a clear understanding of the government's policies, development programs, and aspirations. This will provide the National Assembly and its various committees with tools necessary to perform its legislative, scrutiny, and oversight functions. On that note, Your Excellency, I thank you once more for addressing this assembly. In the same vein, I wish to express thanks and gratitude to Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellencies, former Vice Presidents, my Lord, the Chief Justice and Judges of the Gambia, Honorable former Speakers of the National Assembly, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Ministers and former Ministers here present, Honorable Members of the National Assembly and former National Assembly members, members of the Diplomatic and Consular Corps, service chiefs, presidential advisors, leaders of political parties, Lord Mayors and regional governors, permanent secretaries, directors, and senior government officials, our dear traditional rulers, district chiefs, our distinguished invited guests, and the press. for gracing this solemn occasion in the calendar of the National Assembly. By extension, on behalf of both sides of the August Assembly, I also wish to register our gratitude to all Gambians for the support and collaboration in our collective drive towards nation building. To my honorable colleagues of the National Assembly, I want to reiterate that nation building is an enormous task, and as a key stakeholder in this process, I pray that our deeds and actions be guided by justice and conscience towards the common good of all. May I also thank Honorable Deputy Speaker, Majority and Minority Leaders of the National Assembly, Honorable Members, the Office of the Clerk, the Task Force, and all those who in their various ways contributed immensely towards making this day a success. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and guide us all. Before I put the question, honorable members, may I kindly remind all guests to remain seated to allow His Excellency the President to take leave of the chambers, to be followed by the Vice Presidents and others. On that note, can we hear you?
Point of order. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to thank the President for fulfilling his constitutional mandate. Under point 24, clause 2, I want to use your humble office. In addition, the Assembly may request the President to attend the sitting of the National Assembly for the discussion of a matter of national importance. I want you to use your office to request the President to attend our debate, if it is possible with him. As we are trying to promote democracy, first time in our history, for parliamentarians to debate, the President will be present. We will love that. If you can make that request. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. It's unfortunate that it was not a point of order.
Usually based on issues or procedures.
Honorable member, a point of order is stated if one is doing something contrary to the standing orders of the Constitution. You are making a suggestion or you are making a comment. That's not a point of order.
Point of order.
Your point of, honorable member, your point of order is ruled out.
Speaker, honorable Speaker, member, please sit down.
Honorable member, your point of order is ruled out. Please allow me to continue. Honorable members, before I put the question once again, honorable member, please sit down.
Honorable Speaker, can you hear from me, please?
No, honorable member, please sit down. Honorable member, sit down. Honorable member, sit down. I don't want to repeat it, honorable member. Please sit down. Honorable member, I ask that you sit down.
We are not in a classroom, we are in a parliament.
Honorable member, parliament is guided by rules. Honorable members, responsible parliamentarians are guided by rules. Please sit down. Honorable members, as I said,
Honorable Speaker,
the point of order is ruled out. Before I put the question, honorable members, once again, I want to remind all guests to remain seated to allow His Excellency, the President, to take leave of the chambers to be followed by the Vice President.
Speaker, I want to move a motion, please.
On that note, honorable members, I will now put the question. Be it resolved that this August Assembly do stand adjourned until Monday, 19 September 2022.
Move a motion, please.
Those in favor, please say aye. Not in favor, please say no.
No.
Honorable members, the President's speech, you will find it in your pigeonholes. You can collect them before you go. The Assembly now stands adjourned until Monday, 19 September 2022 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Well, you quite interesting exchange there between the Speaker of the Parliament, Honorable Babakar Munjata, and Suleiman Saho of Central Badibu. But I mean, that's what you expect in a democratic parliament. I mean, Suleiman Saho was just trying to make a request. I mean, for the Speaker to plead with the President to attend the debate on his speech. But I mean, like Suleiman said, the point of order, the Speaker was saying that that wasn't a point of order. I mean, because the Speaker wasn't doing or saying anything that goes against the standing orders of the Parliament. But I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, gentlemen, you have heard from the President quite marathon statement. I mean, he wrapped up with a unique call, asking the members of the Parliament to put aside their political affiliation or not to use their political affiliation to allow it to overshadow their performance, and also, to represent the people of this country, to see the interests of the country first before party's interests. Gentlemen, your take.
I think that is very clear. That's why they are called members of the assembly. I mean, that is a language that we've been taught, English, but if you want to say, we say our bantaba, each and every one of us have a right to be in that National Assembly. But we cannot all sit in there. Even Dongoroba alone will fill the National Assembly.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about Penyam or Buyam,
or
Sale Kenya. So you see, you'll fall. So, but what we can do is to send representatives. That's what we call the honorable members. We have trust and confidence in them to go and discuss the affairs of this country. And back, we said, no taxation without representation. Our taxes has been collected, and we entrusted the executive, headed by the President of the Republic, President Adama Barrow. So these men and women are the watchmen and the watchwomen of our country who sits there to administer the affairs of this country. So definitely what the President said was very right and very fundamental. And I think definitely I commended him for that, to say, let's work together. Let's work together. Let's put our party affiliation aside. Let's put our party differences aside. Let them come here and promote our parties based on, because that's what we want. Let's see the Gambia first. Let's see our electorates. That's the most important thing. Earlier on, you talked about the point of order. I think last year we had something similar.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we had the honorable member who made
it happens every
made a point of order. Yeah. Unfortunately, it is not a point of order. Yeah. And in fact, he got it all wrong. And I think my cousin, Suleiman.
Yes, Suleiman Sao.
It's a cousin of mine.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, is pleading with the speaker. It's a request.
Yes.
If the president should or will come and witness the debate. But again, the vice president can come in.
Yeah.
So basically, these are already spelled out in the Constitution.
I would want to see the president in parliament.
There's nothing wrong with the president coming to parliament, but the president can be deputized by the vice president. I understand. And that has been happening traditionally. Yeah. I remember, we've seen that, here and there, the vice president can come as the head.
In fact, that has been the trend in the past. The vice president has been attending on behalf of the president.
So actually, the speaker was very right to put to Honorable Sao that this is not a point of order. Actually,
it really wasn't a point.
It wasn't order. It's already spelled out. The president should come, and if the president doesn't come, the vice president should come. So in fact, that was going to happen. Come Monday the 19th, I'm so Dr. Barrow would be in the National Assembly.
Sure.
So definitely it's not the point to waste the time of the Assembly.
For me, I like the invitation, the fact that he wants Parliament to extend this invitation to the President to come to Parliament and answer one or two questions. I think for me, we're an evolving democracy and it would mean a lot. I think it would be historic, but I think it also would so that here is someone, we all know him to be a Democrat, really. Whether you support him or not, this is something we can all agree on. And I think it would be really great and historic to have him in Parliament. Now, I know.
There's nothing wrong with that. And what he did, there's nothing wrong with it. But you see, the National Assembly is guided by standing orders.
Yes.
And the standing order that he's calling point of order does not
it
exist.
is not an order.
It's not a point of order. So for me,
That's
that is
not a
my
point of order,
contention.
really. It's
That
not.
he is asking for something at a time when it is not right to do
Yes,
that.
yes.
That's the
No,
basic.
that wasn't a point of order.
The intention is good.
That would have just been
The
a
timing.
request you are making.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to make a request, but when you talk about the point of order, meaning the speaker is perhaps saying something or is doing something that contravenes the standing orders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So again, the intention is good.
Yeah.
But then the timing is what isn't right. But yes, I mean, in other countries we have presidents in parliament answering questions here and there. But then again, I think for me to sum it all up, I like the conclusion of his
Quite
statement.
a powerful statement.
I remember even during his victory celebration speech, he did make similar remarks. And I think it's important. This is what we want to hear from all our political leaders, because the more we have such messages coming from them, the better for us as a country and as a society. We know we're very much, politically very divided, especially during times like this. So it's important that, at a moment when he's telling us of what our state of affairs really is like, that he also seizes that moment, that opportunity to say, you know what, we need to reconcile, we need to work together as a people, but we need to always put the people's interest first. And I think this is important.
I'm talking about people's interest. You talk about the draft constitution, which was rejected at the parliament. This is something he has highlighted in his speech, that the Minister of Justice will start working on crafting or trying to bring back draft constitution.
Yeah. Is it coming back in its entirety again?
It was a promise he made that Gambians will get a new constitution in his second term.
Yes.
And he has made it in his statement that the Minister of Justice will start working on it.
I think, Aliu, what I say, as far as the president make this deliberation, is putting Gambia first. And I think he cannot do it alone. Everyone else must join hand to put Gambia first.
Siri, I understand my colleague, Modlami Choi, is now on the line from the parliament in Banjul. Choi, if you can hear me, what's happening now?
Thank you very much, Aliu. As you can see, a place that was full to the brim with National Assembly members, members of the Diplomatic Corps, the judges, and other important guests for the State of the Nation address have left. Yeah. Now we have some National Assembly members with us to gauge their reaction on the State of the Nation address that has just been delivered by His Excellency President Adam Barrow. And now on my left-hand side, we have Almami Jiba, National Assembly member for Fonyi Councillor. And he wants to give me his reaction on the President's State of the Nation address that has just been concluded. Honorable, what is your own impression? How do you assess? What is your assessment of the President's State of the Nation address today?
Thank you very much. It's indeed a great thing. I think it's constitutional for the President to once a while at least be of an inform of policies and programs of his government for a year. It's indeed great. There are some areas that he has lamented in which we saw a lot of disparity gaps in which, in terms of development, looking at the security sector, that is saying, Gambians are good of gauging policies, programs. But you look at the security aspect alone itself, it's a nightmare. Citizen.
What way are you expecting, and perhaps you would have loved the president to address in his speech?
No, actually, we have a burning issue currently at hand. That is the transportation sector. He had really affirmed the sectors, what he's doing, but he didn't even gauge and also saw that importance in raising concern to the devastating situation that the country is faced of. And again, also, we have a lot of killings, deaths, in daily basis. Those areas are not addressed. If you look at the sector of security also, the lack of adhering to services, the lack of the securities, gauging them as individuals who are responsive. And again, he has also failed in one thing that he didn't even mention, the security sector taking ownership of the Gambian security. Because as at now, we have the ECOMIC who are occupying, the Senegalese forces are here, the Nigerian forces are here, Senegalese forces are here, the Ghanaian forces are here. He had failed as a president to give the trustworthy to the Gambian people that 1, 2, or a year or two ownership will be given back to the security of the Gambia. And again, educational status quo, policies and programs are not informed. And if you look at what he has said, classroom bills, whatever, you go to the provincial Gambia, certain areas, teachers, they don't even have proper accommodation. In the health sector, all health sectors in the Gambia are kaput. Talking of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital, the Biam Hospital, the Farafenya Hospital, it's all empty. These are premises that are laid, but in reality, these are all causes that are difficult. In the agricultural sector, they seize a lot of tractors. Farmers are all left dormant. Modernization is lacking. So it's not a matter of saying by mouth or giving speeches, but we want effective modernization as is entailed. Those things are also lacking.
Yes, you're critical of certain areas, certain gaps on his speech. Where would he, where would you mark him very well on his speech that you are impressed in?
Yeah, actually, in terms of youth skills training, the GIZ and YEP, those areas, skills acquisition is also doing very well. But there should be a lot of improvement. You could train the youths in those skills areas, but if you don't have employment and mobility in those areas, it's also a lacking thing. So that area at least is a little bit, if I can gauge, I can even say a 45% in that area. But apart from that, all sectors that he's mentioning, I don't even see anything that is fruitful. So we are more of policies, but implementation. And again, he has also mentioned anti-corruption. It is hanging on their side. It is not us. It is not in our side. So corruption is a nightmare. Corruption is open. Ministers, directors, departments, you hear corruptions, go to courts, those people are freed and they are flamboyantly going away. So you look at the mass exodus of corruption that we are facing in this country. It's a worrisome. And expansion of the ports is also another thing. Look at containers. Containers now will all the way come from Senegal. So these are issues that I think is not a paper reading, but we need practicals in terms of decision making. And him, the president, should take ownership and do the work, build himself properly to know that he has a country to build.
Yes, we have heard in his speech about the Fonyi crisis and how the Gambia Armed Forces have reacted to contribute towards the stability of that area. What is your, how do you think of it?
I am dismayed and disappointed by the president's speech because issue of Fonyi, the first incident happens on the 24th of January, 2022. There was no single assistance that was rendered to the people of Fonyi. It was on the March incident. The second one, these were incidents where the NDMA and the government also intervened. Now look at what he has based. He has ironed out crystal clear the support that the Sanya incidents of Senegal issues had happened. But the people of Fonyi were left ablaze. So, regarding the performance of the security, I am saying the Gambian National Army and its line ministries have done extremely well in the issues of Fonyi, but they are not protected because, cells will be dropping, the armies will now be hiding when, cells are landed, they go and extinguish. So we talk of a government, and the saddest thing that people of Fonyi, for his government, what he has did that we will not forget is the defense minister then don't have any cause of alarm to go and sympathize or even send press releases, condemn the issues that are going in Fonyi, except the defense minister will now buy what? Sugar, attire, and go and determine the people who are arrogantly captured by the Senegalese forces, taken to Senegal and detained in Senegal. They are sent back as a country. So here, our sovereignty is in a compromise. We are colonized, and decolonization we want to imagine to make sure we address those things.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The National Assembly member for Fonyi Councillor. We also have the National Assembly member for Makati, Janjambure. Can you please tell me, we've heard from the president's speech outlining the government's policies, administrative, matters as prescribed by the Constitution for it to contain in his speech. What has been your assessment?
For me, thank you very much, brother, and then for also granting me this privilege. The truth of the matter is, with the president making that marathon speech, first of all, I just want to thank him for taking his time and also respecting his constitutional mandate. But again, this is something usual, that the president will always come out there to the public, make statements that are never made at the end of the day. So for me, as much as he made a marathon speech of policies and programs of this country, I don't still see the executive to be serious to actually face the realities of the land, looking at the general condition of Gambians.
what have you seen to be positive in his speech in terms of government's policies, to solve the issues of concern facing the population? You cannot read him entirely, but perhaps there are certain things that you might.
Yeah, certain things might be really positive from his end. That is to say, his government is committed to promote democracy and also good governance in the country. Yes, that might be achieved by him and the executive, but until he is able to listen to Gambians, because as much as he's saying that he wants to promote democracy and good governance in this country, you will also come to realize that the narrative is in the opposite. For example, we have pressure groups out there who would want to stage, let's say, protest in the Gambia or on our streets that are actually halted by the Inspector General of Police. So therefore, that would also tell you that the promises he made and the things that come out of his line ministries are always a different thing. Also, some of the positive aspects he talked about is actually looking at growth in the agricultural sector. Even though he made mention some of these things, you also realize that practically this is not what is happening within the agricultural sector. You go to the rural communities, you will come to realize that there is little been done when it comes to rice production for the past 3 or 4 years, even though our fields are under rehabilitations, and there were agreements that some of these fields will be ready after 11 or so months. This agreement has actually exceeded to like 3 or 4 years. And if he is sitting before the nation addressing us that some of these issues will be addressed, I still doubt. I still doubt them. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, viewers. We've just heard from National Assembly members who have been reacting on the President's State of Nation address with us just concluded here. Some of them have expressed disappointment on certain areas that the President has featured in his address for being short of their expectation. But there were also certain areas that they've also highlighted, rating very high the speech on certain positive areas of intervention in terms of policies of the government to address the concern of the public. Aliou Cisse, I'll link back to you. Thank you very much, and the viewers.
Thank you very much, Modlamin Choi, my colleague there, talking to two National Assembly members, Honorable Almame Jibo of Ponyi Councillor and Umar Jame of Janjambure. They are sharing their thoughts on this statement made by the President. But as you have heard earlier on from the Speaker of the Parliament, Honorable Fabagaton Jata, this session is now adjourned Monday, when members will start debating on the President's statement for consideration. I mean,